Hi, everyone. Today's guest is Colonel J.R. West, a 31-year Army veteran who's planned nuclear and joint force strategy at STRATCOM, led force design studies at TRADOC, served as ATEC's deputy commander, and ran global operations for Army Recruiting Command. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on today.
Hey, Danny, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Enjoy watching your podcast. Really excited about your story and what you're doing. So thank you for the opportunity today, and I look forward to our talk.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service, sir. As we talked a little bit before the recording, you just retired and celebrated your final day in the Army. How was it? How was your 30 plus year career? What you learned? What were the best moments? Just feel free to share.
Well, one, I think what kind of led me to there to start was, my parents were school teachers and high school coaches. I've got two younger brothers that are 2 years younger than me. And we grew up in a family, middle class, learned from an early age what it meant to work, what it meant to have discipline, have desire to go after something, follow through on your things. Had the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of coaches and leaders. And when I was younger, a lot of my coaches were Vietnam veterans or Korean War veterans. So had an opportunity to be exposed on that side to what they were about, how they were as men and women, and it just kind of lit a fire that I didn't realize I had until football enabled me to get recruited and go play at West Point. Tremendous opportunity there, tremendous education. Met some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. I started that brotherhood. That led me into the ability to go out and serve. Over my time, I think the biggest joy I've had is the people. Without a doubt, the greatest America has to offer. It's been wonderful to have the experience of serving alongside and serving for these great men and women. Throughout my entire career, I've had the opportunity to play with some pretty cool things. Tanks, intentionally exit an aircraft while in flight, use some pretty exciting equipment. And all of that pales in comparison to the joy that I had and I carry in my heart with being able to serve with our soldiers. That has been by far the greatest highlight of my career.
And did you plan to serve for over 30 years when you just joined the West Point?
I was planning on doing my 5 years and getting out, but man plans and God laughs. And here I am, 3 decades later, and it's been a great ride.
So you would definitely do that again if you had a chance.
In a heartbeat. And I'm so sincere about that. My own children are standing up and raising their right hand. And, in about a month, I'll have a son that'll be a lieutenant. I've got another son that's looking to follow around. My daughter's looking to do the medical side through the military. So it truly is a family business. And, my brother, he retires the same day I did. We both had the opportunity to combine for 60 years of service. I would recommend this to anyone that wants to better themselves and be exposed to the tremendous people that our nation has to offer.
Maybe it's an unexpected question, but I'm very curious how you would answer that. Obviously, you recommend joining the military to many young men and women, but who's military not for? Who should not or who should reconsider joining the military? Maybe there are some qualities or traits or patterns that you saw that make you not the best fit for the military.
I'll answer it this way. The military is for somebody that wants to challenge themselves. They want to learn. They want to grow. They want to be exposed to different places, people, and cultures. They want to have the opportunity to live outside of their comfort zone and realize how capable they are. Those that want to be part of something bigger than themselves, want to serve others, want to have the opportunity to do things that less than 1% of our country is willing to raise their right hand and do. If those things are things that you're not interested in, then the Army's not for you. If you have any of those things as an interest to you, I could not recommend more serving our country. Not only will our Army be better for you to serve, but you will be the best version of yourself that you can be.
And what about some, let's say, medical conditions that might, let's say a person wants to join the army, but they have something that makes it hard to, to do training or, just regular things that you have to do in the army. Are there any other opportunities that these people can pursue in the military?
Well, yes. Well, first of all, the last job I had is in the U.S. Army Recruiting Command. All the waivers went through us, through my directorate. There may be limitations on what the Army's willing to accept, but there are waivers for things. So, for example, kid blows his knee out in high school, but then he turns around, and this is an actual example. Kid in Iowa blew his knee out freshman year of high school, turns around to be an Iowa State wrestling champion. He required a waiver to come in. There was an easy waiver, your ability to come in. I would say this to anybody that wants to serve. Talk to your recruiter. They can work ways to identify what is able to be waived. There's a lot of things that we can do where we can bring people in that are qualified, that you might think you're not qualified for. And that's not lowering the standard on anything, but we've got folks they're active in their life. They've done things. You're going to have bumps and bruises. You're going to have things. That doesn't mean you're ineligible to serve. It just means you need to get a waiver and they confirm, yep, you're good to go. And you can do that. If for some reason you have something that cannot be waived. The other thing is the government civilian side. Being a Department of the Army civilian, I've served alongside some of the greatest people, and they couldn't wear the uniform, but they dedicated over 30 years of their professional life to serving to make sure that soldiers were taken care of, soldiers were equipped, soldiers were trained, families were taken care of. So there are a lot of opportunities to serve our nation, serve our army, if you can't wear a uniform. And it's truly a noble endeavor, because again, you're committing yourself to something that's beyond you, and you're going to help others. But at the end of the day, the reward that you get from being able to help others, being able to know that you contributed to other people's success, you can't put a money value on that. That's something you take with you, and that's a personal joy, that just it excites me, it motivates me, and it wants me to keep going even as I exit the active army. Continuing to support our soldiers, our families, for the next generations coming through. And the other part from some of the folks that are closer at my age, tell your Army story. Tell what it was that caused you to serve, that made you want to continue to serve, and what you benefited from that. There aren't enough people. We're at the lowest point, since World War II, with the least number of veterans out on the streets, in society. And other people are not exposed to what the military has other than what they see in Hollywood. And they don't always get it right. So telling your Army story, telling what it was, even if you only did one tour, you know, there are things in there that you benefited from, that helped you grow as a person, and are reasons why, whether in uniform or as a civilian, your ability to serve is critical, and the opportunities are there for you.
So, what's your army story? What are the most interesting moments or stories that you can share now on the show?
Well, the start, the opportunity, because of football, I had the opportunity, and I was a pretty decent student in high school. Had the opportunity to go to college, and the Army took care of that. I had the opportunity to go and be developed over 4 years. Once I got into the force, at the platoon level, I was a tank platoon leader. The ability to lead men and women in combat, that was a highlight. As I continued on in my career, had an injury that prevented me from continuing to do that side of things, put me onto a different path, which then opened up doors I never knew existed. So I've had the ability to, as you highlighted at the beginning, be part of the team with our nuclear planning. And that was something that was an educational experience, and opened my eyes to a different part of what it is we do, and the deterrence mission that serves to protect our folks. The other part was I had the privilege of being part of the team that stood up Army Futures Command, which was the largest structural change in the Army since we went to the all-volunteer force in 73, 74. As the first chief of staff there, that was a transformational part of how the Army operates, all with the mindset of we need to be better at equipping our soldiers and our formations so that they are equipped, trained, and ready to go fight and win our nation's missions. That was a highlight because you didn't have a playbook you could go from. You were literally going through stuff that nobody that was currently serving had ever done in their professional career. And that was an awesome experience because you got to leverage your experience, but you had to be open minded and willing to listen to others. And it was a great reinforcing mechanism to everybody that the person with the highest rank wasn't always the one that had the best ideas. And there were a lot of times we were in there where, even as a colonel, I was supporting a major or a senior non commissioned officer because they were the subject matter expert in the specific area we were working. And everybody was committed to supporting them to lead us to success. And that was a powerful experience that just showed if you believe in people, you invest in your teammates, you truly care about their well-being. And that doesn't mean taking it easy on them. That means training them hard. That they will go out when you empower them and you support them, they will exceed every expectation you ever had. That was something that I've carried with me throughout the rest of my career. As it into the recruiting side, I joined the recruiting command as we were at the all-time low. It was the worst year we've had in recruiting in the all-volunteer force. And now for the second year, we're on pace to exceed the recruiting mission and keep the momentum rolling into the future, to keep putting qualified people into the Army so that we have our formations manned at the appropriate levels, and then they're able to go out and accomplish what it is they're asked to do. Those were the biggest points that I've taken with me and carried through my Army career, and I've already carried into my civilian career. So it's been a great thing. The people part of it has been the key. Train your folks, truly invest and care about them, their families, their personal goals, their professional goals. Equip them, resource them, empower them, and then you provide that top cover when they make a mistake and stumble. Because we all make mistakes. And if you're not making a mistake, you're not pushing yourself. You live inside your comfort zone and you never grow. And that's not what our profession's about. Our profession's about becoming better than what we think we can be and then continuing to exceed that. And that to me has been the biggest highlight of my service.
And you mentioned that even though you have retired from the military, you still support soldiers, you still support the military. What do you plan to do next as you transition into this new chapter of your life?
Well, actually, I'm in my first week of my post-military job, and I'm working for an organization that does support to the government through different entities. So right now, our main effort is we're supporting the recruiting side of things, helping people learn about the Army, helping people be informed and make a decision on, is this right for them? What job in the Army is best for them? What they're best equipped for? And then the additional part of that then is that leads into, and I know you had General Funk on before, as you go through the training side of the house with TRADOC and everybody goes through basic training, you're providing the best possible applicant that comes through and raises the right hand, becomes a soldier to go through training. And then as they go out into the force, on the force com side of things, they have a more prepared junior soldier that's ready to learn, be trained, adapt, and continue to execute and grow. That side of things, we're also working with folks on the more strategic side with how they do business. Some of the things with bringing, and I know your background on the IT side and the development side. We do a lot of work on the development side of helping the Army get out of some legacy processes they have, legacy capabilities. There's a lot of stuff they're still doing with, an Excel table that takes a lot of man hours. Well, if we can help them provide ways that are more efficient, more effective, now that individual that was doing a lot of that manual work now has time to go do other things, which better enables support to the soldiers, to their families, to these organizations. So that's what we've been able to do. And that's just the first week of being involved. So I'm really excited about where this is going. I'm excited about being able to continue to meet people and tell my Army story, and get people to excited to either one, support the military through their civilian endeavors, or two, entice people to look into the military as far as service.
Honestly, you sound very excited about the military and the army as if you are 20 years old and you're just stepping into this. So that's very nice to hear. Well, I have this, I had this thought that when you were talking about recruiting and the numbers, like you experienced in the past, some of the lowest numbers since 73, 74. Do you think that it's partially because things are pretty stable in the world? Well, relatively. And let's say compared to 1940s, the World War, obviously it's not just recruitment, it's also conscription, but people are more motivated to serve, to protect their army from, protect their nation from the enemy. Obviously there was 9/11, but still not a full scale war with another nation on the level of World War II. So do you think it's partially because of that?
I think if you have 100 people that are going to come in, there's 100 reasons why they choose to serve. Some of them come in because the Army provides tremendous benefits, whether it's education opportunities, whether it's healthcare, housing. Some of that's part of it. Some of it is they've got multiple generations in their families that have served, and they truly are born and grown into a family where service is what they do. That's where those folks refer to the family business, and you've got multiple generations of the same family serving. Then you have other people that, for various reasons, it's the best choice they have. And then they come in and they realize how much they're able to grow and learn and continue to develop themselves. I think when we had, Iraq and Afghanistan going on for as long as they did, you saw a fairly consistent flow of people that wanted to serve. They wanted to be a part of protecting our nation. So you have that. I think now that those conflicts have subsided and other activities aren't as prevalent, even though there are folks today doing things on behalf of our nation to keep us safe, you've got people that feel like it's now it may be a more viable option for them to join. The biggest thing I've learned over the last 3 years here in Recruiting Command is everybody has their own story, and there's not one answer to why people serve. But again, I think it goes back to the part when you asked about who would not join, and my answer is like, if you're looking for these things, you should. The idea of being able to be a part of something that is just, it's more than you. Folks want to belong to a team. They want to contribute. They want to be of value and want to be valued. They want to have that brotherhood and sisterhood. And I think all of that contributes to the increase in numbers we've had. And on the other side, from the recruiting side, we put a lot of effort into training. We put a lot of effort into getting the right people in. Recruiting's not for everybody. Just like the infantry, the armor, it's not for everybody. But there's a fit for everybody. It's just finding that right spot. And once we were better at identifying those that would succeed in recruiting, providing a better training for them and resources for them to go out and tell the Army story, I think all of that contributes to the increased numbers we've seen. And every indication is that we're gonna we're gonna blow this year's numbers out of the water, and we're gonna be set for next year to be even more successful.
Are you mentoring young soldiers now that you retired, or maybe even non-military civilians? Are you engaged in this mentorship process?
Absolutely. And it's both currently serving folks and folks that have retired, folks that are civilians that haven't served or didn't serve in uniform. There's a lot of folks, and it's always great when they reach out, especially as I've gone through my retirement recently. It seemed like everybody I've ever had contact with reached out. The ability to see where those folks are. One of my favorite soldiers, and he's going to get mad that I highlight him. He was a private first class when I was a platoon leader, and we put him in a position that a sergeant should be in, because he was the guy that was ready for it. And we go out and we're having this big evaluation to see how we do as a unit. And he had a rough night one night, and he was really down on himself, and he thought we were going to fire him. I'm like, I didn't fire him. My platoon sergeant, you didn't fire him. He said, what'd you learn? He's like, okay, are you going to do that again? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Next mission. He retired as the command sergeant major. He and I stayed in touch every time he got promoted, every time he went into a new job, every time they had a baby. That experience, and I have several other soldiers and civilians that are like that, non-commissioned officers and commissioned officers. It's part of the thing that helps us learn and grow. If it weren't for the folks that mentored me, I wouldn't have had a choice to serve longer. The Army would have told me it's time to go early in my career. But there are folks that, some of the most dear people in the world to me is Major General retired John Batiste. He was the 1st Infantry Division commander with us in Iraq back in OIF2. He afforded me opportunities that no one else would have done. And I benefit from that and I learned from that. I got to have a close relationship with him that continues now. If you're unwilling to invest in our junior soldiers and civilians, then you're part of the problem. If you're unwilling to share what the lessons you've learned, because nobody is where they are today without somebody coaching, teaching, mentoring. And if you're unwilling to be part of that legacy, you shouldn't have the uniform on, or you shouldn't be in a leadership position in civilian society.
And what are some other leadership principles and maybe a philosophy that you can share that you can apply in the military as well as in the civilian world?
Yeah. With the transition, I'm seeing how much things that I used in the military carry into the civilian side. My biggest thing, and this goes back to when I started playing football as a 9-year-old, become a subject matter expert on the fundamentals. You don't have to be fancy, but you need to know how to, in football, block, tackle, secure the ball. In the Army, shoot, move, communicate type things. If you focus on your fundamentals that your mission requires, and you're an expert in those, you invest in your people, you provide clear guidance, you afford them training that is tough, realistic, does some unexpected things, and you afford people the freedom to succeed, which means they're going to fall down, they're going to stumble, they're going to fail at times, but it's only a true failure if they quit. The biggest thing we learn is from those mistakes, from those stumbles, those are the best lessons we learn. You learn more from that than you do from an easy win. And when you learn from those and you work to not repeat those mistakes, you're better. And now what seemed difficult or impossible is common. It's not even challenging anymore. And now you've grown to the next level. When you focus on the fundamentals, and I know you've had some other folks talking on here in different times in combat, when you train on those fundamentals, you don't train until you get them right. You train until you can't get them wrong. Now you have the ability, like in sports, you'll hear, oh, he plays fast. Well, it's because he knows what's coming. He's confident in what he is. He trusts what he sees, and he's in go mode. There's no pause to think. He's trained and ready for it. It's the same thing in the military. It's the same thing in the civilian side. You train on those things. You master the fundamentals. You have leadership that empower you to stumble, to learn, to grow. They pick you up, dust you off. You figure out what you made a mistake, you regroup and attack again and get better. And that to me has been the philosophy that has carried me through, my athletic side, my professional side, and into the civilian side. And the true rewarding part, and this ties into your mentorship side, is seeing the folks that I had the privilege to serve with using that same approach as they develop their formations, their organizations, their commands, and their subordinates. I just think that way there's no magic to it. It's you focus on the fundamentals. You are truly invested in their well being personally and professionally. You care about them. You train the hell out of them. You challenge them. You don't make it easy, and they learn and grow. And then every time they exceed your wildest expectations. That's a reward that, I mean, you can't buy that.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing this. This should be a clip. I'll cut it and then put it on socials because that's a lot of wisdom and insights and the philosophy that actually works and people should listen to. Thank you for sharing that. And as the final topic for the podcast, I'll let you share a message with the listeners, with the world, with maybe young Americans, maybe someone else who's listening to the podcast. What's your one message to the listeners?
There are only two things that we truly control: our effort and our attitude. Nobody else can drive that. That's you own it. If you bring your best every day, if you're willing to be open to learn from everyone, not just senior people, but everyone, and you go out and challenge yourself and don't let your preconceived limits slow you down. You will go out and you will have an offensive mindset. You will attack life and you will hit points in your life that you had no dreams that you would ever be able to achieve. You are in control of that. And if you control your effort and your attitude and you bring that every day, you keep an open learning mindset and you're not afraid to stumble, there are no limits that can hold you back. And with your story, Danny, I mean, what you've done, you're just a shining example of what someone can do when they just refuse to say. They don't listen to people tell them no. They don't listen to you can't. They take it as a challenge and they're like, watch me. If we had people that use that mindset to life and along the way, you're helping other people while you do it, man, that's a world that's worth fighting for to live in. That would be my advice to everybody, young and old, because you're never too old to learn, and nobody else can control your effort and attitude but you. And if you refuse to accept other people's limits, it's going to be a great ride. You're going to have fun, and you're going to do things you never thought you could do.
Yeah, appreciate your kind words. That means a lot to me. Thank you, sir, for joining, for sharing your army story and all of the lessons tonight. Super excited to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny, and appreciate everything you do. I really enjoy your podcast, and I'm excited to watch what you do next. You get me motivated. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely.